Anti-Afros Bengalis, I got to give you some information. We're going to go to class for a few minutes. This is a brief class about social media and the military. Now, if you are in the military, whether you are active duty or in the reserves, and you want to express yourselves, aka freedom of speech, the question is, do people in the U.S. military include, again, active duty and reserves, do they have freedom of speech according to the U.S. Constitution, First Amendment rights? The answer is yes. What's equally true, the U.S. Constitution gives Congress the ability to impose, to dictate, to shape, to modify, to ratify, to pass, to institute, to enforce laws that are specific and unique to the U.S. Armed Forces. So when it comes to First Amendment rights, or any rights, those rights do not line up with the civilian world, because those in the military come under the jurisdiction of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. This includes the First Amendment. So members of the military have First Amendment rights, but those rights are severely restricted. As civilians, we have First Amendment rights. We have limitations, but those limitations are few and far between. Our First Amendment rights are quite extensive and far reaching. You can literally count on your hand, maybe it won't even fit on one hand, the limitations that civilians have. There is no comparison. Does anyone remember what happened to this knucklehead in the Marine Corps who thought it was a bright idea to get on social media and trash Obama? Remember him? You know what happened to him? They got his ass up out of the Marine Corps. Of course, they gave him a few warnings. He didn't listen. I'm going to be a lifer. I wanted to be a lifer, which means he wanted to do at least 20 years in the Marine Corps. I think he was at 9 or 10 years. Out of there. OTH, other than honorable discharge. He was trashing and bashing the commander in chief. And as a member of the military, you are not allowed to do that. Guess what we can do as civilians? We can talk all day, every day about the President of the United States. We can trash and bash as long as we're not making any threats of violence. We don't have to agree. We can state our disagreement. We can, on social media, we can talk our shit about the president, about the commander in chief, all day long if we wanted to. But members of the armed services are not allowed to do that. Nor can they disparage officers or their superiors. There are regulations and laws that prohibit employers from disciplining people for complaining about supervisors. You cannot get fired for complaining about your supervisor. Now, you can't be abusive and harassing and violate the code of conduct while you're doing it. But in the military, if you make negative comments about your superiors, you're going to get in trouble. See the difference? And there are so many more differences. We have far more rights. We have far more leverage. We have much more extensive ability to speak freely without consequences. So it brings me to this stalker, defrauding slime balls who I don't want to spend any amount of time any more than I have to because it's not worth it. As far as YouTube, my time's going to be spent offline. Got his ass in trouble for stalking Rev G for 2 years. This is someone who's supposed to have a wife and child, but spends his time stalking another man on YouTube and off YouTube. I know the situation with the military. The military takes care of what they take care of internally with their own, but they heavily frown upon members of the military harassing civilians. They will take care of that lickety split. And Rev G demonstrated that. Defrauding slime balls and his race attacking bullshit. He posted a ton of race attacking garbage right here in these YouTube streets. We are doing some other things, but I don't have any problem stopping what I'm doing to file a complaint on your sorry ass. I guarantee you something will be done, just like it was done with Rev G. The shit stopped. Rev G's church is not being harassed by this dude, and Rev G is not being harassed. Oh, he's crying and whining, so cry and whine. But the crap he was doing before ceased, although recently he came up with this comment that very easily can be considered sexual harassment and vulgarity, which very clearly violates Uniform Code of Military Justice. Claims to have a wife and daughter, but would rather stalk another man for 2 years. Claims he has a wife and daughter, but runs around harassing and stalking people who don't even know who the hell he is. Tagging them in post. Then has the nerve to call other people crazy. Something is seriously wrong with anyone who continuously follows other people around into spaces when they have absolutely no interaction or engagement with them. None whatsoever. And gets up here and tells all these lies about the military, trying to impress other people, trying to get them to believe that we as civilians can't speak our mind. We can say whatever the hell we want as long as we're not breaking any laws. On the other hand, members of the military, unfortunately, this idiot falls in that category, is unable to do that. I just want to make sure everyone is aware how much of a liar he is. Thinks nobody knows about the military. The idiot who cannot handle the fact that he basically got his ass handed to him. Can't handle the fact that he was reported and the appropriate thing occurred. He was ordered to stop harassing Rev G, and he stopped. So he just whines and cries. There's no law against whining and crying, but there are laws against racial harassment. There are laws against race attacking. Like I said before, my time is going to be focused on filing complaints offline. I'm not going to sit here and be entertainment for a loser who claims he has a wife and a daughter, but would rather stalk another man for 2 years, who would rather talk about another man's cheeks on YouTube, who would rather tag and harass people who don't even know him, don't have any interaction with him. That's what he'd rather do than spend time with the supposed wife and daughter. He would rather spend hours on end playing video games on YouTube and talking about it. He would rather write day in and day out on YouTube versus spending time with supposed wife and daughter. And there are other people who he's left disparaging messages about on social media, violating Uniform Code of Military Justice. It is a waste of time to sit here and indulge this crap by this loser. We will take care of business in the manner in which we know business will be handled. Oh my goodness, I need to be loved by a bunch of junkies like he's doing. That's not what we're here for. We go to those who are the decision makers and will take care of business, like those who Rev G went to. Couldn't even get through 2 years of active duty service. We're going to believe what he has to say as far as how the military works and how complaints are filed? No, I know how it works. Rev G knows how it works because Rev G got it done. The harassment stopped. But now we start to talk about Rev G's ass. Really? You're interested in Rev G's cheeks? So now you're into sexual harassment? We got the messages. We can report you again. We're letting everybody know how we're going to handle business. We post these videos to show everyone. Do not let these idiots come onto YouTube lying to you, telling you you don't have rights and you don't have recourse. You have a lowly reservist who couldn't even give 2 years of active duty service. Couldn't even make 2 years. And he's running around these YouTube streets thinking he has the gall to bang on somebody who's got 2 official acts of bravery on his DD 214. Honorable discharge, 4 years. We all know what's going on. Losers get bored with losers. So they start to search around for someone who's accomplished over and above what they've accomplished. And their goal is to try their hardest to make them to believe somehow they didn't accomplish anything because they're pissed they weren't able to come anywhere near the accomplishments of those that they're targeting. Losers get bored with losers. Their goal is to try to make the accomplished feel as low as they do. You are an epic fail in that regard. End up filing these bullshit complaints that get thrown right back in your sorry ass face. The only one that got in trouble is defrauding slime balls. You have a lowly reservist trying to tell you he can speak for commissioned officers as far as what they said and what they're going to do. Well, only a junkie will believe some shit like that. Listen, folks, we're going to do what we're going to do, and we're going to keep it moving. You know I got more coming your way. In the meantime, you know the drill. Buyer beware.